Okay. Here's what I want to explain a few things for you. The city of Tucson has, and Albert Elias, confirmed, there's 13 pages of the administrative directives related to real property acquisition, lease, management, or disposition. So if the city's buying or selling real
Right.
property, here are the rules. And they point out, and appraisers have a standard set of rules.
Okay.
It's actually international in scope
Mm-hmm.
and absolutely national in scope. So there's basic rules that every appraiser must follow.
Okay.
And that's so that if you get a written appraisal of value, like market value, it explains what factors are taken into consideration, what approach was used in developing value. They might use the approach of cost of replacing a building, and then looking at the land cost to come up with value. They might look at income produced in rental property and see what stream of income to come up with that as it affects market value.
Right.
So to come up with market value, there's standards that are used. And like I say, it's actually by federal law and by state law and with the city. The city says that all appraisals must adhere to the uniform standards of professional appraising practice. Absolute standard. So and the city has an appraisal committee, an appraisal review committee. Property of this size, they're required to get two appraisals, and then they have the review committee review the appraisal to see if it complies with the rules. So in this case, an appraisal was not done. What they did was, there's something called a hypothetical appraisal. And those are appraisals that are based on a hypothetical, based on a state of facts that are known not to exist. So, you might use it, let's say you've got 10 acres of land and you say, for some reason, I want an appraisal as if this property was, something happened to it or something happened here. And I know it's not true, but for some purpose I want that. So you absolutely can't call it an appraisal. You have to say that it's a hypothetical appraisal and stuff. So in this case, they got something that said market appraisal, and then the appraiser did put in there that this appraisal, he was asked to appraise this property based on a hypothetical that the property was bare dirt. Now, there's actually a report that a group did in Tucson that appraised the mature landscaping on El Rio as being worth $8 million.
Right, I remember that.
So there's mature landscaping, water lines that bring reclaimed water in. There's all kinds of things that make this property valuable. And in fact, the city sent a letter to Grand Canyon laying out all of those things, saying this thing is near the bus route, it's near downtown, it's near the hospital, it's near shopping, it's near police, it's near I-10, it's near this, it's close to this 48-inch giant sewer line that can handle every project.
Right.
Plus, if we sell this, we will agree to have a planned area development. a special thing that only applies to this parcel, that's used for high-rise buildings, like down next to the university where you've got those 14-story
Yes.
tall things. It's a planned, area development, or these, shopping malls. They'll give you that. Well, an appraiser has to look at things of what's the current legal restrictions. If the city's agreed to give you a planned area development, how does that affect value? What's the value of this property with planned area development? What's the value of this property with, all of these things taken into consideration? That's what everybody knows. Everybody. Nobody in real estate does not know that. Your real estate agent that sells you the house knows what an appraiser is supposed to do.
Exactly.
Everybody knows. Okay. So the city here got an appraisal, and then they put on market appraisal. They broke the rules as to what they were supposed to do. But there is a set of rules that says you can have a special use appraisal that's similar to like a summary appraisal if the working papers have in it an analysis of all the stuff that's supposed to be analyzed.
Right.
So you could say, I want this appraised as if it was plain dirt.
Which they did.
Yeah, you could do that, not for the purpose of setting a market value, or the purpose of that being a market value appraisal or appraisal for value, but just say, I'm kind of curious because I want to compare that with something else. I mean, it's possible there's some reason, but you must have at least not only have in the front where it says this is not a market appraisal. You got to put it on the front what it is. You got to say that it's a hypothetical, and then if you discuss these other things, it's got to be in the working papers. Okay, so another thing that you do is you don't tell the appraiser what numbers you want.
Right.
Oddly enough, that's not part of the rules. You're not supposed to tell them, and you're not supposed to say, here's the I want you to use this comp and that other comp. You want the appraiser to kind of come up with his comps. So in this case, the appraisal was done as if it was appraised on February 18th. Okay,
Right.
and it was given to the city on February 20th.
Right.
They said on February 18th they went out to the site and walked around. You sort of wonder, why'd they bother to go walk around if they're going to walk around on the golf course with mature trees? I'm not seeing those. I'm just seeing dirt. Please help me. And of course, it's right next door to the Arizona School for the Deaf and Blind, so maybe they could borrow a cane, And in any event, it was done on as of February 18th. Okay. So the city manager who's in charge of real estate, the assistant city manager, has identified an email on February 14th, 4 days before. And he has some notes at the bottom. And the notes at the bottom say value $350 to $450 a square foot.
My God.
This is 4 days before the appraisal, right?
And who wrote this?
The Albert Elias, the assistant city manager in charge of real estate, and the guy who's on behalf of the city manager department, the leading public servant in determining value, the guy that has seen all kinds of appraisals, is familiar with the rules, is not only familiar with these 13-page rules, but is required to review them in May of each year, or more often if necessary. So he's very familiar with that. So anyway, well before the appraisal, he's got $350 to $450 a square foot. Then there's a note supposedly from the real estate guy's head about some. Well, actually, this is in the appraisers had this note, and this is an appraisal review guy that works for the city, talking to the appraisers about what they need, and suggests in here the comp that should be used. He's suggesting there's south of 22nd Street, Alvernon and 22nd Drive-In. These are two comps that we want you to use to come back with the price that we want.
And those comps are not of equal value, are they?
Of course not. Here's the complete file of the appraisers. Go back to the comp. Here's the comp of Alvernon and 22nd. You may recall this is where the old drive-in theater. I forget what it was called. Was it south of 22nd off of Alvernon?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
not on the
Beyonza.
corner, but back kind of.
Beyonza.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And they have the flat map for it in here. This is 22nd Alvernon. It's back here hidden away. So compare that piece of property with El Rio, which is on Speedway. Less than a half mile from I-10. It's really part of this urban center of the city with all of those amenities to it. Think of the possibilities of that with a planned area development and high rise and a shopping center, whatever else, all those trees with parks around. And so this one, strangely enough, has a price of $3.11 a square foot. So the city asked these guys to break the rules, suggest the comps, picks a price beforehand, and interestingly enough, this $3.50 to $4.50 a square foot. Sure enough, these guys come back with a value of $3.50 to $4.50 a square foot. Who would have thought? And but what?
The true value of the property per square foot?
Yeah, they have a market value range. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They say that's a market value range which they use to set a price to sell it. This is a fake appraisal that breaks all the rules. Used to come up with a range to sell the first piece of public property that was in use that's ever been known to be sold. Certainly never a park. And the range is $15,290 to $19,000. So the range these guys came up with is just way, way too low. Is $15,290,000 to $19,655,000. And the city picked the bottom of that range of this nonsense appraisal. They picked the bottom, and no, there's no notes. There's nothing in writing in terms of the discussion at the meeting, and they just, they picked that bottom range price. That's it.
And who do they do this for? I mean, I see Trio's name in the depositions a lot, okay? Very few documents, like they're kind of like those documents have been removed. There was one name on an email of the guy who heads Trio, who's, I guess, related to, or not related, but works for the Don Diamond.
Well,
So I did some internet checking and found that out myself.
yeah, we don't know. Look, you certainly can look at a situation and say, okay, if the price is, in this case, at least 50 million, at least that.
It's what the value of the true land really is.
No, at least 50 million less than the true value.
Wow.
No, I think the true value exceeds 60 million. I think it's more like 75 to 100, but
And they wanted
it's-
this on a 50-year lease with an option to lease longer, and then they would have been able to avoid all of the city sales tax on commercial property for all those years? Is that the case?
Look, in a deal, there's all kinds of ways where you make money and shave the value down.
Right.
So I'm at the moment just talking about one element,
Okay.
which is what they set as the price that they essentially value this as. That is at least 50 million below its true market value.
Bill, you've been an attorney for 45 years. You've seen a lot come down the pike. Have you ever seen where such a large piece of public property, a golf course with a historical, how big of a scam is this scam they were pulling?
Big. Real big. Because, look, first of all, John, you have to look at each piece of the pie. First of all, the initial value was dramatically lower, way, way off the field. Okay. Then I suppose you'd say, okay, well, were they at least going to pay that? No. Essentially, the land would be free,
Wow.
basically, because here's what they were going to do, is they set a value, like a rental value during the year. That rental value was artificially set low. So that, and I think it was 257,000 a year. So you have to look and say, and then they were going to permit those rental payments to be applied to the sale price.
Right.
And the sale price, they were going to lease it for like 60 years. And after 15 years, you could fix this, that lock in the sale price, but you still wouldn't pay till 45 years later what the sale price was. And you get, 2.1 million, another period of several $1 million in waivers of fees and various benefits. They have a package, what they call an incentive package. And so, but the reason why I say it's essentially free is that when you take a look at the incentive package and the payment over time of what they would be paying for it, then you have to, it's not
Right.
not much at all. But you then look at, they're talking about a long-term lease. So if, for instance, you would sell the property for $65 million or $70 million, the city gets 65, 70 million. Property is owned by a development company that pays taxes on it.
Right.
But when it's leased, there's no property taxes on the real estate.
Okay.
They calculated that was worth, I think it was 7.2 or 7.3 million over a 5-year period. The lease contemplated 10 and maybe more 5-year periods.
Wow.
So 10 times 7.2 million is $72 million.
Over 50 years.
Yeah, a huge amount of money that wasn't going to go into the tax coffers. And then the city attorney's office and city manager, they always sit back and say, well, because of the gift clause, we have to calculate things that are of value to, the public. But they calculate those gift clause things starting with that deflated low fake number to the first with that they start erasing from that point. And then what do they calculate to offset what they're giving away? They offset it with supposed taxes that would be coming from employees or students that are there. And the city doesn't do an analysis saying, well, actually, a lot of these students already live in Tucson, and so the taxes for eating and driving, they're going to be paying whether they're going there or Pima College. And we have information on this school saying that the number of employees are going to be far less than what they're actually doing. So you can take every element of this deal, and the city is, I'm thinking the term malpracticing, but they are accepting lies that they know are lies, accepting numbers that they know are fake numbers, going out of their way to create fake numbers, making sure that the rules that require writings and records being withheld aren't followed. It's I almost said it's about as stinky a deal as there is. But the city's made a lot of stinky deals, and so it's a rough a rough contest to say which stinky deal is stinkier,
Exactly.
But this is a big one. This is a big heist, and the only we know that it's a private for-profit company. We know that the real estate advisors for the private company are well connected locally. What we don't know, and all these deals, is you look at the what Trio
Yes.
is doing, and they're behind the curtain.
Yes.
Trio is saying, hey, this is really great for the city. Let's go in and, boy, what kind of deal points can we give them, and what kind of incentives can we do? Trio's in the business of telling the city what kind of incentives to give people that want to buy land. But the city doesn't know who in Trio is earning the money.
Right.
We don't know who is pulling the strings and what their contract is.
Yes. That's obvious.
I don't know if the city knows, but what I mean is I don't know if some people in the city may or may not know, but the public doesn't know, and officially the city doesn't know, and I don't think these employees know. When you talk to the ones that are doing the deals, I don't think they know.
They're doing what they're told. They're going along with the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we lose again. Just like we're losing, they want to build a dog kennel for $500 a square foot, or they just raise our our property taxes 18%. Our roads aren't getting fixed. Our elections are questionable, and we both know are, in many cases, rigged.
Yeah.
What a place to live.
It's this is where we live.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not just here.
It's all over. Yeah. Santa Cruz, same thing.
Cities across the country, counties across the country come in. Hey, we're going to put something in your town. What'll you give us? What kind of benefits can we get? We're competing with this other city here.
Yeah.
What can you not charge us taxes? Can you build our plant for us? Can you do this for us?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
It's